Welcome back to Lemmings to the Tribes. We're now gonna conclude the Egyptian tribe, and what better way to start than with level 6.
RUPER'Z QUESTLING!
Yet another beautiful cap lock title. And somehow this level is gonna start a trend that we're going to see a little bit later into the episode, and to be fair, there's a lot of the levels which will kind of feature the style of gameplay that we're gonna see right about now. Most of the last levels of the Egyptian tribes are gonna be all about the good old Trailblazer experience, where one lemming is sent forward in order to ready the path for everybody else, while everybody just kinda hiddles by and just dance along to the sounds of music. And yeah, by the way, this balance or whatever it is, nah, it's just a scenery, it's nothing. And yeah, as you might have guessed, at the bottom of this little pit here, there's a green button. Yeah, if you press on it, you die. I'm not gonna step on it right now, because there's gonna be a level where it'll be much more efficient to kill myself, so therefore, we're going to see it right now. And yeah, this table over here, it might not look too intimidating or anything, but yeah, compared to the big scales of justice or anything, no, this is actually gonna block your progress. Don't even try. But yeah, while level 5 Echo of Light was a pretty interesting challenge where you had to think kind of outside of the box in order to come up with a solution, this level unfortunately is kind of meh. It's a pretty boring, eventless level. It's just like, alright, you have to send the Trailblazer Lemming all the way to the left of this very long level, and then you're gonna have to make him go right again all the way back, but on a higher plane. So yeah, this level is just bleh. So I'm not entirely sure that this big pit here was meant in order to use the filler here, but I always thought that was a funny way in order to deal with this one obstacle. We're gonna flood this giant pit until there's no more giant pit, but if you wanted to save some time, Platformer will just bridge over this immediately. And it's not as if you're gonna run out of platformers or anything that I use fillers. I just thought at first that I was gonna miss out on the amount of platformers that I need in order to finish a level, but no, not really. You can do whatever you want. But yeah, that's the kind of level where not having an auto map kinda bites, because yeah, if you want to attend to both sides of the screen at once or anything, you have to scroll all of the way back. There is no way around it. It's just such a shame that the scrolling of the game is kind of slow, because you can't really attend to any situation in any kind of urgency. You have to pause, then scroll all the way back and forth and everything. That's kind of a strike against the game, but to be fair, there's not a whole lot of levels where multitasking is a big issue or anything. Also, don't wait too long to free your other lemmings from the grasp of music, because, yeah, it's a really long walk, and there's not a whole lot that you can do in order to shorten it. Maybe it's possible to shorten this level with some careful rope placement or something, but I'm pretty sure that if you try to rope your way all the way to the top of the level immediately by using that one ledge over here, it's just gonna break because it's gonna fall barely short. And yeah, that's about it for this one level. After that, you have to wait for pretty much 1, 2, or even 3 minutes for all of your other lemmings to carry on and finally reach the end of the level. All in all, a pretty unremarkable level. It's just like, level 5 kind of filled me with a whole lot of hope, then level 6 was just a really boring, by-the-book Trailblazer level. In fact, the formula for the level that we've just seen is pretty much gonna be the formula that will be used for almost all the remaining level of the Egypt tribe, but at least this level does a good job of spicing things up a bit by making the level layout infinitely more interesting. This level is definitely on the vertical side, so I hope you're not scared of heights. So the first reflex that one will have in this one level will be to stomp all the way down here, but yeah, if you stomp there, all of your lemmings are just gonna fall and they're gonna end up where the Sphinx is, and they're obviously gonna be trapped here, because it's almost impossible to get a lemming all the way into this tiny corridor, and even if you did... Yeah, how the hell is this not working? Somehow, the laser blaster is just starting to blast too high so that there's gonna be a tiny bit of floor that will remain, and therefore all of your lemmings are just gonna stay trapped here. So yeah, I guess if you wanted to only bring 5 lemmings at the end of the level, this will be your ideal dream solution. Other than that, yeah, you're better off doing something else. I mean, you could probably wait for all of your 60 lemmings to come out, and then whenever you stomp down, you probably will save at least like 28 or so lemmings, but even then, that's only gonna get you a bronze medal. It's just going to say, it's not bad, but not good neither, so yep, you're definitely gonna have to do better. As you might have guessed, the parachuter is mandatory in order to get through any of this. You could probably skip on some chunks of the terrain if you just manage to get your jetpack all the way there, but even then there's no way you're gonna make it all the way down. The level gives you a swimmer, but don't be misled into using it. As you might have guessed, it serves no purpose. And if your swimmer lands into the left pit of water, then he's trapped here because, yeah, he's not gonna die, but he's just gonna swim back and forth, not able to find an exit out of his watery grave. The only purpose that the swimmer will have is to ensure that your balloon lemming is gonna go left, or for giving you way more latitude into this one part, but with some finer control it's pretty easy. But you better not be a slouch for this one part. You really don't have a whole lot of time in order to pull this section off properly, but I guess if your lemming wanders in the wrong direction, then it's possible to salvage things with the rock climber, and then you use a laser blaster in order to free the other lemmings, and then in order to go in the other pit, you stomp. So all in all, while this was pretty similar to the last level, at least the solution was infinitely more interesting. Oh boy, the caps lock strike yet again.
Heroes Quest.
Why with a Z? Parentheses Z? Really? So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the last 2 levels, because here's another level that plays exactly the same, but at least this level has the benefit of making it seem really non-obvious on how to get your other 59 lemmings out. Of course, there's only one lemming that can go all the way down here. But yeah, it's RUPER'Z quest, but instead of having all of the lemmings like go from like up to down and then down to up, only one lemming has to do the daring journey, and this is probably the most complicated road that we've had to devise yet. You can jump over these pits, but it's generally easier to fall in the pit, and then whenever you're walking in the opposite direction that you want to jump into or something, then you jump. You will collide in the wall, and then you will steer in the proper direction. And yeah, here's to another lemming crusher trap that we have yet to see. We're going to save that for the next level. But yeah, even though I really don't agree with the way that the level's name is being written, because Heroes Quest and all of that sort of thing, I have to say at least this level gives a pretty good vibe about this one solitary lemming, which is all the way down here, being a hero, because oh my goodness, he's definitely gonna have to bust some wild moves in order to free the rest of his comrade. Okay, this part of the level might be busy work, but that's where the complication is definitely gonna start anew. In order to make this section work, you're gonna have to wait for your lemming to walk left, because otherwise, he's gonna walk all the way back again into the pit, and we don't want that. Unfortunately, there's always some tiny little periods of tedium every once in a while. I kinda would have liked it more if your lemming was able to run, but hey, we're just going to deal with the cards that we have. And yeah, be careful with your jump here, because if you bonk your head, obviously you're not gonna go anywhere. Now this is where things get kind of crazy. I don't really think that Egyptians ever pole vaulted, but yeah, it's time for one of the crazier skills of Lemmings. And the judge give a 9.5 out of 10. Yeah, you cannot balloon there because your balloon is way too tall in order for the lemming to fit into there, so you have to pole vault. At least, even though this is a skill that really depends on timing and the proper time to activate it a whole lot, at least levels usually always give some kind of visual cues for the skill to work. It's just like, you had that little honk on the block that will highlight where to use the pole vault, so hey, most of the time you're gonna look fantastic and you're not gonna be too frustrated into using the skill properly. So yeah, after all that, it's time that we finally start to work on freeing the other lemmings. First, we have a platform over here. It's easier to just stop him from building the platform by bonking his head on the ceiling with a jump, and then you scoop. Here we go. Everybody made it. And of course, the lemming who did all the work is the last one hit. What a rotten egg and stuff. Boo-hoo. But hey, bad cap lock title aside, this level definitely gave the feeling of being on a hero's quest, so it definitely worked. And now it's time to go back into Echo of Light territory again, with Waved Pathway. Now we're definitely going off the script, because we're going back on a level that definitely involves a little bit more complicated solution, that goes beyond the good old send one trailblazer in order to do the thing that really seemed obvious to do. Now you definitely need to have a little bit more creativity with the digging here. The first order of affairs is of course to contain your lemmings properly, because if you don't start by having a stacker at the beginning, of course your lemmings are gonna get lost in the left edge of the screen and will die. Just like this lemming over here who just fell for the oldest trick in the book. So in order to avoid this fate, well, you either platform over or you just dig through. It's kind of a poorly made trap if you can just dig through it this way, but there's a reason why you want to do that instead of a platformer. You only have 3 of them. We're gonna need 2 in order to make it across the upcoming chasm that we see over here, and we'll need 1 for another purpose a little bit later. So yeah, you unfortunately don't have a choice. Oh, I guess we do. The other choice is to not do anything, aka the good old psychedelic eyeball way. So with all of the remaining supplies that we have, going upwards is absolutely not an option, so the only way of course is down. We're going to have to use all of our supplies in order to stomp and bash and maybe even bomb your way through just in order to save on some supplies, because hey, at least all that we have to do here is 1 stomper, 1 basher, and then 1 stomper and 1 basher again, instead of having to repeat the process even more because of the way that the steel blocks are positioned. I mean, you probably could have taken the upper path, but that will imply that you will not have used the jumper at the beginning of the level, so you probably will have lost lemmings another way, because I don't really know how you will send a trailblazer lemming in order to do all of the work without the jumper, by jumping on top of the wall that you've just created. And yeah, it's now time to free everybody in order to not deal with the hassle of randomly clicking in order to figure out which lemming is going which direction. A bomber is always a good tool in order to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Now I just kinda sound like a terrorist for some reason. Alright, if you want to control things, you gotta use explosives! Muhahahaha! Nah, I'm sorry, I don't sound credible at all. But yeah, that's it for Wave Pathway. Definitely a more original solution than the last couples that we've had. Okay, I'm mainly talking about level 6 and 7, because level 8 was definitely more interesting in the solution department. And now time for the final level, the Pyramid of Despair. This level was either really neat, or it was really lame, because if you had the Amiga version, the solution to this level was so stupid and so simple that it almost felt insulting, but thankfully, and I say with question mark, that solution doesn't work, so we're gonna have to take it the long way. What you do in order to shortcut your way through this entire level is to use a mortar at the bottom of that one pit where the lemmings are currently falling into as you're hugging the left wall, and somehow that will dig under the entire floor, and therefore that will set you on a perfect course in order to finish the level. But on the DOS version that doesn't work, so therefore we have to be a little bit more creative. At least the level is fun because it gives a pretty good range on the amount of things that you can do in order to prevail in this level. For instance, hey, that button is deadly, not if you pour sand over it. And you also notice that upon pouring the sand, that made our lemming turn direction. This is very important because that will absolutely come into play a little bit later in this level. In the meantime, it's time to hop our way through these narrow platforms of doom. I always love this skill. It's just like, it looks so dumb, but hey, if it works, it works. Now, we don't want our lemming to go all the way to the left because he's gonna die otherwise, so yeah. You just pour sand and then you shimmy because, yeah, somehow that makes the jump skill happen at the same time, so I have no clue why you have one jumper and then 5 shimmier, which is the same skill but better, so yeah, I guess just use shimmier because you have more of them, even though they're more powerful. Now, we want the lemming to turn direction, so what did I say about the sand pourer? Yep, it's totally time for him to change direction this way. You could also assign a slider and therefore he will slide into the pyramid, but then that is going to fuck up the next step of the level. And unfortunately we cannot shimmy here because the ceiling is too low, so that's why the slider is absolutely ill-advised. You need to fall there and then you jump in order to climb to that one portion of the level. Now we're in perfect position in order to glue pour her way all the way to the exit, and then we can free everybody with the power of mortar. I'll never get tired of using violence in order to free lemmings. And with that, we are all done. So all of our lemmings are gonna make it to the end in a leisurely fashion, but yeah, it's also time to also notice, well, a little something with the rock climber that definitely sets him apart from the regular climber. Normally, if a regular climber reached the top of that wall, he would have fell down, but not the rock climber, because, yeah, he has the ability to also scale walls that are inclined all the way to 45 degrees. That lemming absolutely does not give up. Of course, that's also probably going to put him into trouble at some time because, yeah, there is definitely a whole lot of room in order for him to kill himself by climbing up this pillar, so let's hope that nothing bad is gonna happen. Okay, thankfully nothing bad happened, and we're just going to save some time by making him jump, which is definitely faster than just him falling down like that, and if of course he was a slider, then you will just lock yourself out of the level entirely because he probably will not ever be able to walk left again. And with that, our Egyptian tribe is finally on board of the Ark, and he looks really styling as always. It's kind of a shame that as we're gonna progress more and more through the game, all of their faces are just gonna get covered by the gold medals of the Ark that we're bringing forth. So that was it for Egypt, and now it's time for the next logical step. To go backwards in time for the medieval time. Or tribe, I guess. So, see you there.